This episode of the n-Lorem Patient Empowerment Program podcast is graciously sponsored by ChemGenes, where advancing science is their purpose and helping people is their passion. Since 1981, ChemGenes has been redefining the boundaries of scientific discovery, development, and commercialization by manufacturing and supplying the broadest range of nucleic acid chemistries available in today's market.
Join us for the 2025 n-Lorem nano-rare patient colloquium, hosted by Biogen, this October 20th and 21st in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Connect with members of the nano-rare community as we explore the latest from the foundation, share insights from treated patients, feature expert-led panel discussions, and more. Supporters, physicians, scientists, and patients and their families will come together for 2 inspiring days of learning, connection, and hope. Don't miss it. Register now to attend in person or virtually at n-Lorem.org.
Hello and welcome to the n-Lorem podcast series, the only podcast series exclusively devoted to the needs and interests of patients with nano-rare diseases and their families. As many of you know, every year at our annual meeting, our colloquium, we provide awards, honors. We recognize a select group of people. Now, admittedly, these awards don't come with money, but they do come with the ignominious distinction of a letter from Stan and if desired a hug. So it's heartfelt, but not terribly rewarding for our awardees. So we're looking forward to that part of the program in the coming year. And we call these awards Hero Awards. And they're important because they recognize the many unsung heroes that make it possible to do what we do. And I've been impressed in many, many ways with how giving people are of their time and their money and their effort and their knowledge in the service of the mission that we have at n-Lorem. So it is very much an opportunity to say thank you, and is extremely important to me. And today, we will be chatting with 3 of the heroes of n-Lorem for 2025. We have a few others that we'll be talking to later. So this is a big crop of heroes. But we're finishing our 5th year, so the accumulated contributions of our heroes is very impressive. And so with that introduction, let me just welcome our guests and introduce them to you. First, hi, Wendy. Wendy Erler, who's Senior Vice President of Patient Affairs at Sarepta, and before that, led very ably a similar position at Alexion. Wendy, welcome.
Thank you so much, Stan. And I'm going to jump right in and say heartfelt and no monetary award is so emblematic of working in rare disease. So completely thrilled.
Yes, well, there you are. And then our other 2 guests are people that I've known for more than 25 years and come from Ionis. Richard Geary, who's an Executive Vice President and Chief Development Officer at Ionis, serves on our Research Management Committee and is always available to me if I need to tap into his enormous experience for advice about a particular patient. Richard, welcome.
Yeah, certainly an honor. I would say also that the lack of monetary remuneration is emblematic of what we do, but we give because it's from the heart.
Thanks, Richard. And then our third, but not certainly every bit as important as the previous 2 guests, is Scott Henry, who is Senior Vice President of Nonclinical Research at at Ionis. Both these positions play seminal roles in moving drugs forward for patients and protecting patients as we do that. And they come with an enormous amount of responsibility. And I've had many, many thousands of people work for me over the years, but I have only a handful of people that I feel I was privileged to work with, and Richard and Scott are both members of that club. Scott, hello.
Thank you, Stan. Pleasure to be here. I appreciate the recognition, and my contribution is that hero title is more than enough. I mean, in this group and for this organization, I feel it's all the people n-Lorem is serving who are the heroes. Just happy to do our little part.
Well, thanks everybody. So let's get underway. We've already begun, I think, the heart of the conversation, and that is all of you have senior positions with many responsibilities and many impositions on your time, and at your levels, as we all know, time is the most precious commodity we have. So you invest your time nonetheless in helping n-Lorem, and I think that is certainly an important topic that I'd like to share with our listeners. So, Wendy, I know that we knew each other at Biogen, but really we started interacting in a direct way at Alexion, and I remember that well. But I'd probably like to hear about it from your side.
Thanks so much, Stan. And I think the work that n-Lorem does is just really the mission of working in rare disease and no patient left behind. And it's the most vulnerable parts of this community that don't have the resources and support that is thrust on patients themselves to drive. And I think it's heartbreaking to start from that diagnostic journey space and understand how difficult and scary and unclear that path is for families. And then to find out you have a random rare disease that's called by a series of letters and numbers, and there's no research and no hope. It's incumbent on all of us working in rare to raise those voices, raise the opportunity, and drive science, because we can't leave anybody behind. And so the mission of n-Lorem spoke to me personally, but also speaks to the work that we all need to do across rare disease. And that's where my commitment comes from.
Thanks. That's very well said. Richard, your thoughts?
When I was thinking about this hero award, it kind of reflects on what Scott just said. The focus is the patient and the family that we're serving. And so when I have an opportunity to do something, whether it's in my job or outside with the foundation or other opportunities, if they involve patients and they involve families that are facing an impossible journey, it's just a privilege and an honor to be able to do that.
Scott, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think one of the things which I personally, and actually I represent a number of other ions in the group, that have done quite a bit of work to help with supporting n-Lorem programs, especially early on. But I think that one of the things that we all grew up with is the concept of personalized medicine. When Stan sort of launched the n-Lorem mission and nonprofit, that was an opportunity to actually take what we had learned over decades and really make personalized medicine tangible. And so any opportunity to sort of take our experience and contribute and make that a reality, such as it is that's a large part of my motivation, and it's been so rewarding.
So,
I would add to that the concept of so much of the advocacy space and the patient community space is nonprofit. And so to think about combining those missions with really driving scientific change and bringing therapies to patients, that's what spoke to me about n-Lorem. I'm just so humbled by the fact that, Stan, you're leading all this work the way you are.
well, kind of you to say, thank you. So I think it would be helpful to folks to just talk a bit about the work you do in your day job, what that actually means. And so, Scott, why don't we begin with you? You're head of non-clinical research. I don't know what the heck that means. So maybe you help me understand non-clinical research.
Probably appropriate that I start the sequence here, because the contributions I make, or the people that, in my group that also volunteer for n-Lorem make, are on that really early stage of getting, the baseline sort of drawn for FDA to approve treatment of a patient. And so that's the name preclinical. We're the ones sort of laying the foundation to build the blocks on top of. And so we're doing all the safety testing and, trying to get through that regulatory hurdle and enable the clinical trial to, basically proceed safely. So, that's a lot of what my group done, and, supported, dozens of drugs, from Ionis over the years. And so, just taking that knowledge and applying it to the n-Lorem programs.
So the title for your job has varied over the years from preclinical to non-clinical to preclinical, and I think the reason that title has been in flux in non-clinical, I guess, is the preferred approach, is that your work certainly doesn't end when the ASO goes into the clinic, and you're called upon to help interpret clinical findings about safety because of all the complex judgments that we have to make every day with regard to risk and benefit to patients, and so certainly an area where I let on you at Ionis was when we encountered a problem we had never seen before in the clinic. What does this mean? How do we address it? What's the mechanism? How do we create animal models that help us understand it?
Yep.
So I guess non-clinical is a better term than free, huh?
Yeah, no, I think it's reflects the fact that we're supporting all the way through and taking that information that comes back from the patient experience and making sure that we're doing a better job, for the next drug that comes along that we're testing and assuring safety on.
One of the most important features of antisense, and what I hope when I founded Ionis, is that within a particular chemical class, ASOs behave very similarly. And so we have the opportunity to learn from one ASO to the next, which is not the case in small molecule drug discovery. As you change your methyl, change your drug is very true, meaning any change puts you in a new game, and what you learned last year doesn't matter. And so over the years at Ionis, we've accumulated millions of ASO experience in animals and hundreds of thousands of ASO experiences in humans. And all of that comes together in an integrated fashion. And that, of course, is what enables n-Lorem to do the work we do. But, of course, the knowledge at Ionis continues to grow exponentially. Knowledge builds on knowledge. And so having access in a proper way, we have to behave as separate organizations. To know if there are any significant changes in the way we ought to think about ASOs is really important to our patients.
Yeah, that's been one of the more gratifying things. For those that don't know me, I've been at ISIS, now Ionis, since '93, and it's the cumulative knowledge over that time that has come from this platform, as Stan described, is what's enabled us to be able to sort of make our contributions to the n-Lorem mission.
Now, Richard, in your head, just spend a minute describing the sort of day work that you do and all the different elements that come into play in making decisions about what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, just going back to the platform piece, I forget exactly when it was, early 2000s, Stan, when you were leading the company. And at that time, we were starting to accumulate a pretty good mass of data, both non-clinical and clinical. And it was at that time that you encouraged us to establish a database that was integrated. And that work continues today, even though I would say the platform continues to innovate, and we're not just the same exact molecular space. Nevertheless, we have this large database that we can rely on and tap into, and you and I and Brenda and many others put together 3 seminal papers, I think, from that database to really best characterize some of the issues that we were seeing in the clinic, what we were seeing, what the portfolio was bringing forward. Today, on a day job kind of perspective, I oversee about 28 compounds in clinical development, and non-clinical adds 3 or 4 every year. And the non-clinical, then, I'll just reiterate, runs all the way through the clinical spectrum. So by the time we get to phase 3, there's still work to be done on the non-clinical side. And it's building that really background data for the molecule and reflecting on the entire portfolio space to get ready for an NDA. I've been privileged to be involved in 7 NDAs. Some of them we were writing the whole thing. Some of them we were helping out our partners. But today we've got 7 approved antisense drugs, and it was through that process, that crucible, that my knowledge was really formed all the way through development to a marketed product. And then, so when I think about n-Lorem and moving into a single patient with essentially a compound that's going to treat them for life, it's an entirely different space. It's an entirely different situation. And it's precision medicine. Yes, it's so many things being brought together. And I'd have to say, having a leader like Stan involved in this new approach, this new way of applying the science and the innovation that is being developed, not just at Ionis, but even more broadly, bringing all of that together in the service of nano-rare patients is just incredible. So thank you.
Well, it's my privilege. It is incredible that it is, as everyone I think says and feels, a privilege to do.
This episode of the n-Lorem Patient Empowerment Program podcast is proudly sponsored by Hanjin Biotech. With more than 26 years of experience in the nucleic acid industry, Hanjin is a specialized CDMO and raw material supplier committed to providing high-quality and high-value products and services with the best-in-class lead times.
One thing that we have done at n-Lorem is industrialize the process. And that term means a whole many things. It means a commitment to quality at each step. It means performing the minimum number of steps that our experience teaches us are required to select an optimal ASO and doing it right. And then having quality control systems or approaches embedded in the process. And the quality control systems are a set of extramural committees, beginning with our access to treatment committee, and are ending with our drug safety monitoring board. And in between there is a critical committee called research management committee. That is a title for a committee that I created about almost 50 years ago when I was at SmithKline. And it's a title we used at Ionis, and it's a title we use at n-Lorem. And that committee is charged with making the decision of whether we have a good enough ASO to be moved to treat a patient or not. That is the most challenging risk-benefit decision that we make. And Richard and Scott serve on that. And I'd like just to spend a minute on your roles at RMC and how you see RMC functioning at n-Lorem and how important it is in your mind.
Yeah, I think so. From my perspective, I think the primary role that I have again is there are two elements of that decision at Research Management Committee. One is activity, so pharmacologic engagement of the target, and the other is the safety element, which that's more my focus, but I keep an eye on both as best I can. And I think that the contribution that I can make to n-Lorem's RMC in particular, since again these are very small non-clinical safety packages, is basically to sort of judge the data in the full context of the experience that I've accumulated looking at dozens of drugs over 30 years, and so being able to just sort of assess that element of quality and that Stan mentions that's part of the process, but also just the sort of the empirical safety data that we collect that's designed to kind of pick up on the types of things that we know are possible safety liabilities and issues for the drugs, and make sure that we're avoiding any of those before a compound is chosen to move forward.
Scott, Richard?
Yeah, I would say similar to Scott, we're trying to fit a very small package into a larger knowledge base, so that we might be able to reflect on what this new compound that is now being proposed to go into a single patient, and in fact a very rare patient, and often with a technology that we're familiar with from the background of this larger background, but we're looking at it a very specific space and a very specific set of data, and it's challenging, I'd say, but also very rewarding to be able to see how these compounds are coming forward and all the work that's going into it. There's a great group of people now who are involved in not only the efficacy and the cell biology and further looking at very small numbers of animals to really understand the safety, and it helps us probably be better scientists at what we do, to be in this particular space and be able to reflect on this and be able to share that with the community of scientists that are bringing forward the compounds.
Would you want a loved one of yours who had a nano-rare disease, let's say, to be treated with an ASO if it were not subjected to the rigorous analysis of something like RMC? No. Richard? No.
Absolutely.
Folks, that's the most important question I've asked on this podcast. Would you be willing, you three experts in antisense technology, be willing to take the risk to treat a patient with an ASO were it not exposed to the rigorous analysis of a group of individuals deeply experienced in the technology with broad eclectic knowledge? And the answer is a profound no. Well,
Absolutely.
don't do it. And this is, if you've learned nothing else out of this podcast, I would say that would be the thing to take away. It is the experience with the technology and the willingness to subject ourselves to extremely rigorous extramural review that makes what we do work. And if you are thinking about taking an ASO that's developed in some other forum, such as an academic center, ask yourself, is the process rigorous enough, and does it involve people who really know the technology at a sufficient level? I assume, Scott and Richard, you strongly subscribe to that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's important. I mean, we talk about this and what enables this effort, is, sort of the platform consistency, but that, makes it sound oversimplified probably, and so there is a need to be, very critical and scrutinize, the properties of the molecules and kind of be conscious of, sort of what the, what the liabilities are and what, the properties of a good molecule should be.
Thanks, guys. Well, Wendy, I haven't meant to ignore you, but you're on the front lines. You deal every day with patients in need and families that are being disrupted and affected by these terrible diseases, and you have to play a role in convincing corporate leaders to invest when often business, just strictly looking at the business, would suggest you run screaming with your hair on fire from whatever the opportunity that you bring forward is. So just tell us a bit about what you do every day, and then I'd like you to go into how you were able at Alexion and now Sarepta and Biogen to convince leadership to invest in something that may not make financial sense, and in particular how you've done that as in the way you've done, which has been really amazing to me, to help n-Lorem, which is clearly not an investment decision that has any chance of returning value in the business sense.
Well, thanks, Dan. And I think this conversation, kind of the arc of non-clinical, preclinical through commercialization to the work that I do, all flows beautifully. I always say I have the best role of any of us because I do talk to, meet with, and hear the experiences of families every day. So patient centricity, patient engagement is really real in my role. And I take the responsibility of bringing that back to the organization very seriously. I often say I walk into the room and people internally say, "Oh, Wendy's here. Let's talk about the patient." And the reality is it's a much bigger success story for me if I walk into the room and that's all happening. But I see my superpower being very simple compared to what you guys do, from the perspective of it's really about being a great convener and bringing diverse stakeholders together, but from a fundamental perspective of fostering trust so that we can achieve this bold ambition and highlight shared outcomes that transcend the traditional metrics of business reporting and budgeting and all of the business cycles with which we have to adhere. And these are huge, complex problems. But I fundamentally believe if we solve for one, we solve for many. And that's the approach I've taken in not just ensuring that we can fund the incredible work that n-Lorem does, but also translate that to what is the benefit back to the organization. And Stan and I had a lot of conversations over a specific area, which was around amyloid in the liver and what n-Lorem has learned. So the data sets at n-Lorem, we talk about N of one or few people being treated, but the science that's generated and the data that's available is actually extremely informative for bigger programs far earlier than I think people really recognized. And that's the magic in what's being built, because n-Lorem has created a forum that has a couple of key things in place already, including a regulatory pathway, which is often the big unknown when you start early drug development programs in rare, much less ultra rare. But n-Lorem has also characterized the community at large in such a way that the natural history is fairly well understood. And then the piece where I think n-Lorem does something that's very unique and special and completely aligned with the work that I've been privileged to do is truly understanding what matters to the patients. And often that means the caregiver. So it may not be somebody who's in a wheelchair getting up and running. It may be being able to maintain independence over a course of time so that the quality of life of the whole family improves. But being able to articulate that and show the impact of these ASOs on those, what would be fairly, modest, probably non-important endpoints in a bigger study, show that this matters, and I think moves the whole field forward, and we have yet to see the true impact.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. Thanks. And, one of the more one of your feats that continues to amaze me is you're able to get seemingly willingly a lot of senior people who don't report to you and are more senior than you, and certainly have line jobs that are on the path to making money for shareholders, into a room to talk about n-Lorem. That's a piece of magic that I haven't encountered that many times in my career. How do you do that? Maybe that's a secret that you don't want to share. It may just be that you have a nice smile or people like you or whatnot, but you get people to do things that I haven't seen others able to do very easily.
Stan, it's not a secret. And to me, I mean, I'm humbled by Richard and Scott, but I'm a very simple thinker. And I believe we're in a people business and people matter. And we have to bring all those voices to the table. But it's really about the mission. There aren't very many of us that work in this industry, whether it's Ionis or Biogen or Alexion or Sarepta. We're here because we fundamentally believe and know we're making a difference for people who are at their most vulnerable. There isn't a rare disease patient I've met that couldn't tell you the exact date and time they finally got a diagnosis. It is a remarkable experience. And so if we can come together from that perspective, there aren't a lot of other businesses where it is that truly remarkably mission driven. And then that's just exponential when you bring n-Lorem to the table. So I remember a conversation with a very senior executive where I basically said, you have to be in this meeting because if you're not, you're communicating that this work doesn't matter. And I don't think it's like, for all the rocket science we do, at the end of the day, if we come to the table with no patient left behind and we are all in this together, and science only advances with collaboration, that makes a difference. And I firmly believe that collaboration has to be academic and industry. So much good science is happening in industry. We're not the bad guys. We're advancing research on a daily basis. And if you apply, kind of coming at it from both ends of the spectrum, that's how patients are going to benefit in the long run.
Well, anyway, you've got a piece of magic that you're able to do. And I think I heard in there a small threat, but I get it. Whenever, do what's necessary. I get it. I said at the pre-Gallion Award that I think the heart of our industry is a wonderful heart. But the reason people come to our industry is to help patients, but the abstractions of science, medicine, and business often get that lost.
Yeah.
And you see it over and over again. And the beauty of n-Lorem is there are no abstractions. It's tangible. Every day we deal with a patient and a family. And I think the ability to reduce our industry to its essential element is one of the features of n-Lorem that I most appreciate, but didn't expect. The essential element of the industry is a heart-to-heart caring for another human being.
Stan, I completely agree. And I'd pull that thread through a little bit further. What n-Lorem does to share the information that you learn is unprecedented. There's so much siloed activity in science, and that's just never been the approach of n-Lorem. It's been, here it all is, here's what we know. And I think that's part of the game-changing miracle.
Well, thank you, folks. I think we said a lot of very important things, and I really appreciate all that. Is there any question I haven't asked or anything you want to say that before we call it a day?
I want to know what's next. Where do you see n-Lorem going?
Well, at this meeting coming up, which is October 20th and 21st, I hope I got that right. Andrew, step in if I didn't. This meeting is, I think, going to be a spectacular meeting because it's all about what we've learned. And in the end, what we do is about learning. And what we learn is a means of exponentially doing better. Science builds on science. We stand on the shoulders of those who did it before us. And knowledge is cumulative and multiplicative. So we're going to share knowledge. And we've learned some incredible things. And one of the really important lessons that I'll bring home at the end of the meeting is that every hurdle that people said was impossible, every single impossible hurdle has been overcome. We've done it. And we've done it repeatedly. That's done. As a dream merchant, I'm used to people telling me what I want to do is impossible. And I have become extremely adept at ignoring such people. But to be able to say that all of the technical, scientific, regulatory, medical process, systems, organizational processes, all of that's accomplished. It's all behind us. There is a single challenge left. That's funding the enterprise to meet the demand. And that's a high-quality problem. And that wasn't obvious that it would be the case 6 years ago or 5 years ago. And so what's next? Keep doing what we're doing, do better, continue to advance the technology, which we are doing, so we can do a better job, and enlist as many people as I can to help me bring in the money so that we can treat tens of thousands instead of hundreds. Richard mentioned that he's supervising 28 medicines in development. At n-Lorem, with 25 people, we now have, I think, 28 different ASOs being used clinically. We filed 33 INDs in the last 2 years. Maybe Pfizer files that many NCE INDs. That, I'm really proud of that. And that speaks to the fact that we've scaled up at a pace that I never dreamt we could. And now we have tens of thousands lying still in need. So raise the money, expand, maintain quality as it is, maintain commitment to every individual patient, and commit to do no harm. We need to get to Europe. We need to get to Asia. We need to get to wherever these rare diseases happen, and the medical infrastructure is sufficient that we can provide the services that we provide. I think the future is very simple compared to the past, which was really complex. Money. Richard, anything I haven't asked you that I should have?
No, I don't think so. I think you put it in good perspective.
That was a mic drop, right?
Yeah, no kidding. What n-Lorem is doing is remarkable, and the dream, as usual, you articulated the dream, and it's coming true.
Thanks. Scott, anything from your end?
I think we've kind of, Richard and I at least, have kind of focused on the science part. I think, in reflecting the care, for the patients and the passion, it's probably worth acknowledging the regulatory achievements, and frankly what FDA has contributed. And it's kind of in the background, but the regulations and the guidances that they put out to sort of enable the non-clinical, the clinical, the CMC tracks and stuff in a very short amount of time, reflect an equal commitment to the patients that you hear from you, Stan, and from us as individuals. And I think that regulatory support is a pivotal part of being able to achieve that and move all this, these amazing programs forward.
Oh, well, thanks, Scott, for bringing that up. It's certainly true and important and vital, and I say it a lot, but it's worth saying again, we couldn't do this if we didn't have the support of the entire FDA. And the support has been astonishing and out of character. The job of the FDA first is to protect patients, be safety, and they really invest a lot of energy in that. And to do what we're doing, the FDA had to step out of its comfortable place and to a very uncomfortable place where it's supporting moving rapidly to the clinic into very sick patients without most of the data that it demands. And the reason they can do that is the technology, the fact that we put integrated safety databases together and publish them, and the FDA has access to it. But they did it. And, I told the story of in 2019 when I was still running Ionis, but thinking about doing this, writing the leadership of the FDA and getting responses back in 30 minutes from all of them, all positive. That's the single time in my career I've ever had a response from the FDA in that length of time. So it's a partnership. It's a partnership between those who provide the funds, those who do the science, those who discover and develop the drugs, those who serve the patient directly, our network of outstanding clinical investigators, and the regulators who have to participate in this with us. So I think among the many lessons I've learned over these last few years is the power of that group when it actually comes together and try to do something. And if n-Lorem fosters that sort of partnership where every member of the partnership still does its job, still has its responsibilities and adheres to them, but commits to finding solutions for patients, I think the whole of the world would be better. And maybe that's a really good place to bring this wonderful conversation to an end. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for all your help. Thanks for putting up with me and participating. And on behalf of our patients, we couldn't do it without you. So we'll look forward to giving you the awards. Richard, you'll have to get your hug another day. Scott, I guess you're coming.
Yep.
I'll have to get a chair, but I can. That'll be okay. Okay. Thanks everybody, and have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for joining us for this podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, Stan, and we'll see you in Boston.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
n-Lorem is a nonprofit committed to discovering and providing personalized experimental treatments for free for life to patients with genetic diseases that affect 1 to 30 patients worldwide, referred to by n-Lorem as nano-rare. Many of these patients progress and die without ever achieving a diagnosis. This is where n-Lorem comes in. They do the impossible by providing hope, and for those that they can help, free lifetime treatment. For more information about n-Lorem or today's episode, visit n-Lorem.org. Any questions can be sent into podcast@n-Lorem.org. Search n-Lorem on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook to connect with us. This video is hosted by Dr. Stan Crook and produced with the help of the following professionals. Thank you for watching.